welcome back to my channel. Please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you.
Let's look at the materials that we're going to be using for our Asooke Zaracap. Now I'm going to start with my base. For the base, because the Asooke comes in strips like this, I've gone ahead to join two of that together, and the measurement that we have here is 12.5 by 13 inches. Now note that the Asooke, when it comes in a form like this, has definite breadth. So the breadth for this one is 6.5, so when it's joined together it is 13 inches. Now for the 12.5 that I'm using, I am not going to be using the entirety for the head measurement, but I did that because Asooke, you know, it is woven, so it frays a lot, so I'm going to be leaving a little bit of allowance for me in case it frays. I will have something to cut off in case anything happens. Now for the structure that you usually see on your Asooke, what you are going to be using is our mako, and you can get this at any shoe maker's shop where they sell shoe making materials. And the measurement for this mako is 15 inches by 3 inches. That is what I use for my Asooke Zaracap. When I want to make something like a silk or satin, I use around 18 inches or 16 inches as the case may be. Now for the design on the on the Zaracap, we are going to be having one big bow and one smaller bow, and one small bow. For the big bow, we are going to be using 25 inches for the length, and definitely the breadth is the 6.5 inches. For the smaller bow, we are going to be using 22 inches by whatever breadth is here. Now for the loop for the design, we are going to be using 5 inches for the length, and whatever is here, that's 6.5. To make our base, the very first thing I've gone ahead to do is to mark the midpoint of my mako. Remember our mako, and also the base for our Zaracap, which I already talked about the measurements. Now I've gone ahead to mark out the midpoint for these two. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my mako. This is the wrong side of our Asooke. Please note, I know that Asooke can be difficult to note the wrong part, but I've noted the wrong part. So now I'm going to be taking my mako like so. I'll make sure both the midpoint of the mako and the Asooke aligns, and I'm going to bring it over like this. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to be sewing this part. There should be small allowance here. I'm going to be sewing it down closely as much as possible. Now you should make sure that your sewing needle does not go through the mako at any point in time, and then you are going to run it down from one end to the other end. So this is what I have after sewing it. Now this is what I've gone ahead to sew. Now remember that this is our wrong side. Now I'm going to flip it over. This is our right side. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be shifting that was why I told you not to sew on the mako. I'm going to be shifting this part that we're going to sew. I don't know if it is visible, this orange thread here. I'm going to be shifting it to the back to get us that effect that you usually see on the Zaracap. By the time I do it, you understand better. So just start shifting it. You shift your fabric to the back like so. Just as you are seeing me do, just be shifting it to the back. Shift your fabric, shift that sewing line. Be shifting it to the back. Shift your fabric to the back. This is how far I have shifted it to the back, and you see by the time I hold it straight like this, we are going to have something like this. So now I have like half an inch inside now that I've shifted to the back. If you want to still shift it more, you can, but I think I'm okay with what I've shifted to the back so far. So the next thing we are going to be doing is we are going to be folding it like so, and we are going to be sewing it. Now please, when you want to sew it, number one, ensure that you don't sew it straight like this end part. Ensure that this pleated the way it looks pleated like this for both sides, you are going to be sewing it like that. Don't try and sew it straight just as you have sewn it. Ensure that that pleated this thing is reflecting. And another thing that you need to notice is that as I'm going to sew it now, I'm not going to be sewing it straight or four corner. I am going to be giving it a slanted shape. When I'm done, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. This is what I have after sewing it. Now I need to point out some things. Now can you see that I've gone ahead to shape out the measurement that I want, and I still have like 1 inch remaining. Now what I used for this Zaracap, the measurement I used is 23 inches. There are times that I use 22 inches for people that do not make hair, because I'm African and probably the ladies on low cuts, or the person does not make weave. The person just weaves a natural hair. So I use 22 inches. But if the person is on a small side, I use 23 inches. If the person loves making like braids and everything, so that the braids can fit perfectly in it. If the person is a little bit big, on the big side, I can use 24 inches so that it can sit perfectly. The head can sit perfectly in the cap. Now look at what I was talking about. Can you see I didn't sew it straight, I made it slanted. I shaped it out. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be trimming off all this excess fabric so I can give it a neat finishing. So now when you want to trim it out, don't trim this part out too much, because Asooke is a very crazy fabric. You can trim out and you trim out everything, you won't know until you trim out, because it continues to fray. That means the woven part will continue to unravel. So I'm just going to do the rest. I've finished trimming out the excess fabric from all sides. Now to make this place neat, you can do two things. You can weave it, take it to your overlocking machine and then weave it, or the method I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using my bias tape to bind it, our bias binding. I'm going to be using it to turn this part over like so, all the way to the end here. This is what we have after I finish using my bias binding to tape the edges. Now what do you want to do next? You want to gather this part. Now this is where the your edge is going to sit, or I don't know. Now just from where you remember this part right here, you can just move up by 1 inch or by ½ inch, and then you gather all the way around from there. After gathering it, this is what it looks like inside. On the outside, this is what we have. Can you see how beautiful this looks? Now this looks like what you normally see, right? Now this is our turban, our Zaracap base. Our Zaracap base is ready. Next thing we'll be doing is making our bow, and the first thing I'm going to do, this is the longer bow, the bigger one, that is the 25 inches in length one. I'm just going to look for the midpoint, trace and mark out the midpoint so as to know where to put my fabric. Now this is what I'm just going to be doing. So after that, I just overlapped the fabrics on each other. You can just do something like this, but I'm going to be using my thread and my needle to make the pleats, or the gathers as you may call it. And so this is what we have for the big one. Now let's work with the small one. We are going to be doing the exact same thing that we did for this big one for the small one. That is the one of 22 inches. We have our two bows, and this is the smaller one, this is the bigger one. I'm just going to be placing them on each other. Now I'm going to be taking the one with the raw edges and also the one with the raw edges, and I'm going to be matching them together. That means they'll be facing each other, and so you can go ahead and sew them together just to make sure that they are well aligned, and you can just use your thread to tie them together without using your needle. So use a bigger needle, please. This is what we have right here. The next thing we want to work with is our loop. Now I'm going to go to my sewing machine. Now I'm going to just fold it into two, and I'm going to make a stitch to sew it down. I've gone ahead to turn it inside out, and I'm just going to be using it to wrap the bows, that double bow that we have created. So since I am going to be sewing it to my Zara cap, it's not going to be showing. I can afford to use my hand thread and needle to tack it down. And please try as much as possible to not make the bow, to not make it too tight, so that it doesn't lose the shape. Now this is what we have. This is what our back looks like. So this does not matter because I'm going to still be tacking it down to my Zara cap. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be attaching it to my base. This is what we have. See the bow. Now this is what I made at the back. This is what the front looks like. I use my hand thread and needle because I'm still going to tack it down to my Zara cap, so it won't be showing. Some people may want to place it by the side like this, but for the design my client wants, she wants it at the back of our cap. That's the design that we are going for. So just like and how how I work neatly. So I'm going to be starting my sewing from inside this place. I'm not going to be starting from the back, from inside the bow. I just flipped up the first bow, and I'm going to be starting from here. Ensure that your bow is straight, please. Now I'll go inside, and just like I usually say, take a pinch. As much as we are working inside, we don't want any form of thread everywhere. So just take a pinch and after attaching it, but I still want to attach this what with this loop that we used to cover. So I'm just going to be attaching it well to my Zara cap. So I'll just take it from the inside like so, and I'm going to be making it like I'm making an invisible stitch, so it doesn't show too much. Now this is our Zara cap. We are done with our Zara cap, the bow and everything. I've attached everything. Everything is looking so beautiful. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, help me grow this channel, and see you another time. Bye bye.